This is my Lakewood box fan from the 1950s. The model is an X-22. Today I am going to be doing a little project with the defected motor, which is in GE export. The fan runs very well. However, I want to make sure that the fan is going to be fine electrically and mechanically before I do the restoration. So I am going to do a disassemble, and we are going to have a close look at the motor, and we are going to see exactly what's going on inside, and we are going to see if we can try to correct the problem. First, I am going to remove the front and the back guards of which are mounted on with four large screws. Some of the original hardware is missing, but since I do intend on getting replacements, that is not an issue for me. And the blade set is aluminum. It is mounted on with a long screw and a nut, and I was able to successfully get the blade removed the first time around, so no struggles there. The blade, however, appears to be in good shape. The rubber mount is not cracked or broken. However, the blades are a little out of tweak, but I am also going to be getting the blade back in balance in the process of this small project. Okay, so the blade set has been removed very carefully, and now we can have a closer look at the motor, which is what we are focusing on today. The shaft does seem to move up and down a little bit, but not enough to where it's anything major. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of play within the shaft or the bearing. And now we are going to be removing the switch, which is a three-way push button switch. There are two compartments that are holding the wires in place. They are clamped on to the back brace, and I am going to be removing these, and we are going to do this very carefully without any chance of ruining the wires. And I do believe these little metal compartments are original too, by the way. So it would appear that this was all done with nut washers, with wire nuts, and the wires seem to be in really good shape. Nothing is frayed, the insulation is not cracked or damaged. We are still going to take extreme precaution. And as you can see, just as I indicated one time before, that the cord was spliced as the fan has been repainted or restored the first time around at one point. And it looks like it was done with a thick layer of electric tape here. So I am going to very carefully remove the tape without damaging the wires. The tape was a little hard to get off, and this was done very efficiently, but still nothing was damaged in the process. And now we are going to be removing the motor. It is held on with 4 nuts and 4 bolts. Luckily there was no struggle in removing the nuts, holding on the motor to the brace mount. Okay, and so I have very safely and carefully got the motor removed. The motor appears to be very free spinning. There's not a lot of play in the shaft. We are going to have a look at the inside of the motor. But first we are going to have a look at the information of the motor, and I'm going to wipe away the excessive dirt and oil to look at the identification of this motor. The camera was not able to pick it up well, but I was able to put it in through the editor. Okay, so we are going to be removing the nuts and the bolts that are holding the motor together. It would appear just like any other fan motor, it's just 2 separate halves that are held together with the bolts and the nuts. Okay, so now I'm going to be before removing the front cover, I am going to be cleaning the shaft with some WD-40 to be sure that we are not going to ruin the bearing with any dirt or grime, to where we are not going to damage the bearing even more before disassemblation of the motor. I am going to use a flathead screwdriver to remove the front cover. Okay, so it popped off pretty easy. And now we can finally have a look at the inside of the motor. It was everything that I expected to be. It was slightly dirty on the inside. And it looks like this was done with spacers and thrush washers. But as to how the motor ran, the noise it was making, it appeared that the thrush washers appeared to be totally fine. There wasn't much of any dirt or dust going around the coils. Everything appears to be good and stick together. But if you see where I have my finger, there is a loose winding. And this could result in a shortage. And so this will be corrected. The inside of the motor is slightly dirty, but my goal is to clean it out. And so I am just going to take a napkin, and I'm just going to stick it down into the bearing, and I'm just going to give it a good cleaning very carefully. I'm going to clean out the dirt and dust from the coil windings, as well as the inside of the motor. And also this is a good prep for making sure that dirt and dust does not get into the bearings before oiling it. A little cosmetic cleanup for the time being. This is not the restoration, but I think it would be good to get the motor a little spruced up before the servicing. I'm going to use this Singer sewing machine oil. This was not intended for fans, but I have used it for previous projects. this happens to have the same function and effect on my other fans just as the SAE would. No problems with it. So I think that it should work very well for the time being. Want to make sure that the front cover is in alignment and the right orientation before putting it back together. So I'm just going to take a hammer and I'm going to very carefully give a few taps to make sure that the front cover is back on evenly to where the shaft is self-centered along with the cover. Was able to get this motor apart without any damage. Okay, now it is time to do the reassembly. Starting off with mounting the motor back onto the fan. Just make sure that you get the motor to where it's in the right orientation to where the wires can go back into the switch of the fan. And now we reassemble the switch back into place. I am very happy that nothing was damaged, including the wires, in the process of this clean and servicing. Everything seems to be going right with this restoration so far. I do plan to modify the electricals when I get ready to restore this fan, so everything will be put back together as is for the time being. So I am just going to mend the core back together with some wire nuts. And now for the moment of truth. I'm going to plug the fan in and we are going to give it a quick test. If you go back and watch the last video that I recorded of the fan, I think this has made a slight improvement. It's still slightly noisy, but I think this is the best it's going to get for the time being. I do believe that if I can get the blades back into balance on this, I think it wouldn't be as noisy. But other than that, the motor appears to be very free spinning. It's not as noisy as it was, so I think this is going to be a play it till it quits.